Welcome to the tutorial on processing NMR spectra in VnmrJ. Open your data in the FID format using the File, Open menu. Look inside the data directory for your FIDs. FIDs are folders of data. Drag the folder ending in .fid to the graphics canvas window, or you may double-click the folder to open it. Here is the File menu. Use the Open item. You may scroll through the Open window to find the FID shown here. When you find your FID, drag the FID you want to the graphics canvas window. The file will open and automatically be processed. Click Cancel to get back to the window. There are graphics icons running along the left side of the graphics canvas. They are Cursor Box, Magnify Full Spectrum, Integral Toggle On, Off, or Full, Integral Resets, Integral Level and Tilt, Spectrum Scale, Spectrum Grab and Move, Threshold, Manual Phase, and Refresh Spectrum. Running the cursor along the icons shows their function. All three buttons on the mouse are used in the VnmrJ graphics window. When you are using a mouse with a scroll wheel, click the wheel for the middle button. The left button controls the left cursor. The right button controls the right cursor. The middle button controls the vertical scale. Either the spectrum or the integral will be scaled up or down. In the graphics window, hold the left button down and drag it left or right to move the left vertical red line, the left cursor. Start with the left cursor on the left-hand side of the spectrum. As you drag the cursor, its position in ppm is shown on the bottom of the spectrum. Clicking the right mouse button gives the right vertical red line the right cursor. Click on the right-hand side of the left cursor. Dragging the mouse with the right button down moves the right cursor. The right cursor is always to the right of the left cursor. Moving the left cursor moves the right cursor too. The middle mouse button scales either the integral trace, a green line if shown, or the spectrum. Clicking the middle button pulls the spectrum to where the mouse was clicked. Here is the visual prompt for the mouse buttons. Look at the top right corner to see which mouse button was clicked during this demo. Mouse and expansions. Click on the scale icon to show the ppm scale on the spectrum. Click with the left mouse button and drag back and forth across the spectrum to see the red cursor move with the mouse. Right-click to get the right cursor. Click to the right of the left cursor. Click the expand icon to expand the spectrum between the two cursors. vertical expansions are done with the middle mouse button. First, we will expand this area of the spectrum. Now, to make the peaks to the full height of the screen, we will click on the Auto Scale button. The middle mouse button can also be used to scale the peaks. Clicking the middle mouse button pulls the spectrum to the mouse. Note that the integral trace is off. To return to the full spectrum, click the Full Spectrum button. Auto Scale to put all the peaks on scale. Automatic phasing. Click on Auto Phase to automatically adjust peak phase. When an FID is open, the phase is automatically adjusted. The Auto Phase button is highlighted here. Manual phasing. Click on the phase icon to move the display into phase mode. The first step in manual phasing is to click on the rightmost peak in the spectrum. Drag the mouse up and down while holding down the left or right mouse button to adjust the phase. Phase only the right-hand side, ignoring the left-hand side. Click on the left-hand side and again drag the mouse up and down with the left or right mouse button held down. We'll go through the steps now. First, scale the spectrum to see the baseline. Next, transform all to move any baseline corrections. Now click on the phase icon to select the phasing mode. Click on the right-hand side. It is important that the first click be on the right-hand side. Phase the right-hand side only, ignoring the left-hand side. See how I drag the mouse up and down, holding the left button down, the phase of the spectrum is changing. Also see that RP, shown at the bottom, is the only phase being changed. The left button is a coarse change to the phase. If I drag with the right button, the phase change is smaller. The middle mouse button controls the vertical scale. After phasing the right-hand side, click on the left-hand side peaks. Phase those as you did the right-hand side. Ignore truncation wiggles or spinning sidebands. The baseline should be level on either side of the peaks. When phasing is done, click on the recycle icon to refresh the display and leave the phasing mode. Auto Scale to rescale the spectrum. Integrating peaks. Clicking on the integration icon moves it into partial integration mode. The integral resets icon is shown. Clicking on full integration shows the clear resets icon. Clicking the integration icon enters the partial integration mode. When in partial integration mode, one more click on the icon enters the full integration mode. In full integration mode, one more click on the icon turns off the integration. The icon here is Clear Resets. Resets are the cuts in the integration trace. We will click into partial integration mode, first integration off, then partial integration. This icon is Integral Resets and moves us into the mode to cut the integrals. Left-clicking cuts the integral at the cursor. Start from the left-hand side of the spectrum and left-click on either side of the peak. Left here. You can see that the Add Resets corresponds to the left button. We will need to expand this section of the spectrum, so we will click on the Recycle icon to move out of Integration Resets mode. Click the Expand icon. Now we'll go back to integral resets mode. The middle mouse button controls the vertical scale of the integral. Click and drag the middle mouse button up and down to scale the integral. See that IS is shown at the bottom of the display. We left-click around each peak to cut the integration trace. We will go to full spectrum, then expand the area upfield. Go back into resets mode. Again, we left-click around each peak. Double-click to cut between two close peaks. Let's return to the full spectrum. Autoscale under the integration area autoscales the integration trace. If you make a mistake in resets mode, right-clicking removes the reset or cut nearest the cursor. Baseline correction. There are two baseline corrections. The first is DC, which is drift correct. The second is BC, which is baseline correct. BC requires that all peaks be integrated before doing the baseline correction. We can see that the integration is not level through the spectrum. Clicking DC corrects some of the tilt to the spectrum. Since we've already integrated all the peaks, we can use BC correct. The integration is now flat after doing the BC correct. Select one peak, and we can use that to set the integration value after we've done the BC correction. So we put the cursor on the integral trace of one peak. Click on the integration page of the Processing tab. Enter 1 in the integral area for one proton. Then click on Set Integral Value to assign one proton to that peak area. All the areas are scaled to the area we have assigned. Referencing to a peak. We will expand the spectrum to see the reference peak. We can use either tetramethylsilane or the residual proton in the solvent. Put the cursor on the peak and reference in ppm. In this example, expand around the solvent peak. Dimethyl sulfoxide is a solvent, and 2.5 is its chemical shift. Turn off the integration trace. Left-click on the peak to put the cursor in the middle of the multiplet. Select ppm for the reference unit. It is important to do this first. Type in 2.5 into the box and press enter. You can see that the cursor value has also changed to 2.5. Peak picking. We will follow these steps. Click on the threshold icon, set the threshold using the left mouse button, and check that the peak picking is OK with the Find Peaks button. Let's go back to the full spectrum and auto scale. Now we have the settings for the display. Click on the threshold icon. The left mouse button moves the threshold up and down. The height is given in millimeters on the display. click the peak threshold, click the Find Peaks button to see the peak picking. Here we want to see the lower peaks. We will return to the spectrum and click on the threshold icon again to adjust the threshold. Find Peaks shows all the peaks. Plotting. The plot button on the default page automatically plots using the settings on the plot page. The plot page has peak picking and text plotting options. We can also do customized plotting from the plot page. To plot quickly, click the plot button on the lower right of the default page. This will plot what is shown on the graphics canvas. The plot page has options for plotting. Here are the options for plotting the peak frequencies either as a list or on top of the peaks or none. The plot parameters puts the basic NMR parameters on the page. These are used on the automatic plot page or the plot button. The automatic plot page is the same as the plot button on the default page. So clicking here is the same as clicking here. We can also plot what we select. Here we want the spectrum, so click on Plot Spectrum. Then plot spectrum scale. Then plot text. Then plot integrals. Plot scaled for the integral values as we set previously. Finally, when all the selections have been made, click Plot Page. You may select any of the plotting options before ending by clicking the Plot Page button.